What's up guys, my name is Ace, and now that I've got a little bit of playtime with Season 2 Reloaded, I wanted to share my thoughts on this update and the content that we received, as well as the things that changed and the new issues that popped up as well. And diving right into it, let's start it off with the maps that we got with this update, and the first one is Grind, which is of course a remaster from Black Ops 2. We also saw it in Black Ops 4. And just like I anticipated, this plays great in Black Ops 6. I actually really like Grind. I think it's handling really well with the Omni movement, and I've really been enjoying my playtime on it so far. Whereas Bullet, on the other hand, this is one of those maps where I feel like you either love it or you hate it. It depends on the style of Call of Duty that you like to play. In my opinion, this map is awful, absolutely mindless nonsense. And if you would have showed me this map layout just a few years ago and said this is a map in Call of Duty, I would have thought this was some kind of like April Fool's joke or something. There's definitely a part of me that hates that this is what a lot of people see Call of Duty as, and this is what Call of Duty is to them. But at the same time, I can acknowledge the fact that there is a certain group of people in the community, and it appears to be quite a large group of people that absolutely love this style of a map. And if they could play this 24/7 for the rest of the life cycle of this game, they would do that. So for those people, I may not understand how their brain is wired or anything, but I'm happy for them. I've seen a lot of positive reception for this map with certain groups. But it's definitely not the map for me, and I plan on never playing this one again. Also, just a quick note with this, when the update first came out, I want to point out that there wasn't a 24/7 playlist for Bullet. They have now added that a day after the update hit, but this is something where I hope in the future they can stop doing this. If you're bringing a new map to the game, it should absolutely be available in a 24/7 playlist. Or if it's multiple new maps, it's cool to put them in the same mosh pit. And it should be there immediately when that new content is dropped, because it was a little bit frustrating on the first day. I wanted to check out Bullet, but I wasn't about to waste my day trying to lobby shop for it to get into a match on it. And I definitely wasn't up for sticking around and playing face-off for hours on end to maybe get a match on Bullet. So I'm glad they added it now, but in the future, please, if you're bringing a new map to the game, it should be there immediately in a 24/7 playlist, so that we don't have to get lucky to experience that new content right away when the update hits. In either case, the next thing I want to talk about here is the new TMNT mode, or the Ninja Turtle mode that they added. And with this one, you're playing standard game modes, but the one twist to it is you get a bonus score streak that you can unlock. And when you use that score streak, you turn into a Ninja Turtle and you get special abilities depending on which turtle you turn into. Now, the first thing I noticed while playing this mode is it seems like, just like the Pentathlon mode with the Squid Game event, as far as I can tell, it seems like there is toned back or possibly even no SBMM in this mode. While playing it, I experience a much wider range of players. That's not to say that every match I play is super easy or anything, but I have been noticing a much bigger mix of players, just like I did with that Pentathlon mode. And just because of that, I actually think I'm going to be playing this a fair amount while it's available. And then that special streak itself, it's a fun twist. I think it's more enjoyable than the special streak that we got with Pentathlon, where you call it in and then it does the red light, green light thing and you just get free kills. I think it's more interesting that you actually turn into a turtle and you get these special abilities you get to use. However, the first gripe I have here is the fact that if you don't buy any of those Ninja Turtle skins, you will be randomly assigned which turtle you turn into, and therefore which abilities you get when you activate this streak. Whereas for people that have bought those bundles, if they're using that particular turtle as their operator going into the game, then they're locked in with those abilities that are attached to that specific turtle. And not all of those abilities are created equal, and as a result, you could argue that that is pay to win, but limited to this one special mode that is only going to be here for a limited time. So it's not like the biggest deal in the world. I'm not going to be totally outraged by this or anything, but I don't like how they handled that. I'm not a big fan of the fact that spending money allows you to lock in with the streak style that you like, whereas for everybody else, they're relying on luck when it comes to that. And then another thing I found quite frustrating is there is a 30-second timer when you activate that special streak. And yet, as far as I can tell, and I even went back and watched my gameplay, there is no indicator on the screen whatsoever that's informing you that there's a timer in the first place, let alone how much time is left on that timer. And as a result, I've already run into a handful of situations where I'll be like running straight at somebody with my special abilities, thinking that I'm going to have my special abilities in this situation, only for that to suddenly disappear. My gun comes out, there's an animation that takes place, and then I'm just standing out in the open like an idiot, getting myself killed. So I think it should be either no timer attached to this at all, and you get to use the streak until you die, or if you are going to put it on a timer, at least show us what that timer is so we can make proper gameplay decisions based on how much time is left on our ability. But outside of those two gripes that I have with this mode, overall, I have been enjoying myself, largely due to, like I said, the more toned down feeling matchmaking. After that, let's talk about the new Hunter's Instinct perk, which I still plan on doing a full breakdown video on, so I'm just going to share the absolute basics of this. But this is unlocked via the Armory. And with this one, when you kill an enemy player, it gives you a little indicator on the minimap, just showing you the general direction that the next closest enemy is in. And at least just based on my initial impressions using this, I'm not really a big fan of this. I don't see enough utility in it. Generally speaking, after I kill an enemy player, I already know where to be looking for the next enemy, and I don't need that indicator on the minimap. And oftentimes, I feel like it's kind of distracting, and it forces me to check the minimap, maybe in situations where I would otherwise know that now's not a good time to check that. But I feel that compulsion since I'm using the perk to check and take advantage of that perk, and it's just put me in some awkward situations that I wouldn't have been in to begin with. So personally, not a big fan of it. I don't see myself using this in the future. But perhaps after I do a breakdown of this and learn more about the perk, maybe I'll find some more utility with it. These are just my initial impressions of it. And that pretty much wraps it up for the new stuff that I've had experience with so far since this update. We do also, of course, have access to all of the new melee weapons in the armory. I haven't gone through and unlocked them all. Once again, I am going to be doing a breakdown of this and looking at all their stats and how they stack up against each other. But it's too early for that. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is the spawn adjustments that they mentioned in the patch notes. Just a quick general recap of what they did here in Team Deathmatch. They said that they made the spawns a little bit less flippy, so they're not going to flip back and forth quite as often. And then in Domination, they were trying to make them a little bit easier to flip out, or more so harder to set up an extreme spawn trap and push like right in toward the enemy spawn without flipping them. And I've got to say, after just a few hours of playtime, which admittedly isn't enough to get a full feel for everything, but so far, after a few hours of gameplay time, I haven't really noticed any clear differences in the spawn logic. Like maybe a few situations here or there I could say, yeah, normally it would have flipped there and it didn't flip this time, or vice versa. But it definitely didn't feel like a night and day difference the moment I hopped in. Domination is still extremely trappable. In fact, in this situation right here, I was really trying to test the limits. I was trying to flip this spawn out without touching the enemy flag to see if it will now flip, and it won't, as you can see there. And in TDM, maybe it felt slightly stickier than it was before this update. I do need to get some more TDM gameplay time, but overall, I wasn't noticing any major differences right out of the gate with this update. Which on one hand, I absolutely prefer them taking baby steps when it comes to spawns. I don't think spawns have been in such a bad state in this game that they need like a total overhaul and they need to start from scratch or anything. I just think they're close to being where they need to be, but some adjustments are in order just to get them dialed in and right where they need to be. And we're still not quite there yet based on my experience with this so far. So hopefully they continue to make these small incremental steps in the right direction when it comes to spawns without flipping everything on its head and throwing everything out that's currently good about how their spawn system is working. And I know in the past, I think with the Season 2 update, they mentioned they implemented a new system where they can do easier A/B testing with spawns. So I'm hoping they take advantage of that so we can get these spawn improvements working at a faster rate than what we've been experiencing since launch. I don't want to be waiting several more months for some more spawn tuning. And we're definitely still not there yet based on my initial impression after the Season 2 Reloaded update. After that, let's talk about weapon balance a little bit, which didn't come right at launch with the update. I found that to be a little bit frustrating because I was really anticipating these weapon balancing changes. I had my video all set up and ready to go, just needed my post-patch testing, and it wasn't there right at launch, and it took about 24 hours for them to get that part of the update actually implemented into the game. So that part sucks, but the weapon balancing update itself, I'm pretty happy with. I think they did a good job with that. They brought up some of the weaker guns, gave them some very appropriate buffs, and I think that's great. Those guns are in a much more balanced state now after this update. And now it's time for the last section of this video, which is talking about a bunch of new issues that this update brought. Now, thankfully, many of these issues that I'm about to outline, they have already been fixed. They got on top of them very quickly. I don't expect every major update to go flawlessly. I usually judge it by how quickly they get on top of things and their response to that. And at least with most of it, they've done a good job with so far. That doesn't make it any less frustrating when you get excited for this new update and you're there ready to go as soon as the update goes live so you can play with the new stuff and have a good time with it, only to run into a good handful of issues. A couple issues that showed up right at launch was ranked SR was broken for a few hours, and the ranked crossplay options also disappeared. Those ones they got on top of very quickly, like within just a few hours. Next, some people also got stuck on a fetching online profile loop. I believe that has been worked out by now, but if you're still experiencing that, please let me know. Those people literally couldn't get into the game, or potentially even at this moment can't get into the game at all to play. And even if that's only affecting a small group of people, that's still the most serious out of all of these because they literally can't play the game. They also totally broke challenge trackering with this update to the point where they just removed it from the game until they can get it fixed. They did mention it will be coming back at some point. Also, keep in mind, this is a pre-recorded video. I'm recording this on the only Friday, so a day before this video is actually going live, so it's possible some things will change between now and when you see this video. But at the moment, challenge tracking is just not in the game. Another issue I ran into, and I haven't seen them acknowledge it yet, is my classes that had forward intel on it, that forward intel perk wasn't working unless I edited the class while I was in a match, swapped away from forward intel, and then swapped back to it. Then it would start working again. So if you are having some issues, if there's a perk that you feel is on your class setup, but it's just not working properly, try that out while you're in a match, edit your class, swap away from the perk, swap back to it, and that should hopefully fix it. Or better yet, hopefully Treyarch just fixes this in general. And so far, those are the main issues I've been seeing pop up since this update hit. Again, thankfully they have fixed most of these issues in a timely manner. Obviously, it'd be better not to have them pop up in the first place, but when they do, it's good to see them get on top of them quickly, before the weekend at least. And therefore, overall, I would just call this a pretty standard mid-season update. Nothing really blew me away about it. It's nice to have some new content to play with, but outside of that, it's largely just more of the same. And honestly, at this stage, I really wouldn't mind seeing them shake things up a whole lot more with the game. I know a lot of people have burnt out on this. They find it to be stale. And I have a feeling this Reloaded update isn't going to be enough to bring many of them back and keep them for any length of time aside from the initial honeymoon phase with the new items. Now, of course, these are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the Season 2 Reloaded update in those comments down below. Are you guys generally enjoying the new stuff that we got, or not so much? Or are there any other issues that I didn't mention today that you are experiencing that popped up with this update? Please let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.